I'm Brett Jaffe. I'm CEO of Ohio Blowpipe, and as you can see by this first slide, we are been in business for over 88 years, and we're the experts in air handling. On the slide itself shows some fairly large and complex air handling systems and filtration, but with a lot of changes, not only due to Corona, but even prior to that, and the concerns about our employees' health and welfare. We've looked at new technologies that are looking at even smaller particulates in the air and cleaning the environment for our employees. So, but coming back to the topic at hand with COVID-19, you probably have seen this in the CDC's latest, and they continue to change on how to respond to coronavirus. And one of the big elements of response as of May 6th was put on their website to improve the building's ventilation systems. So there's a lot more focus on the air that we're breathing, as much as there was initially on keeping the surfaces clean. So this is really taking the droplets and the particulates out of the air prior to them settling and moving to someone else, as well as the aerosol element to them. So we've actually launched a new product this year called AIRSCREEN micro. We've got some large air screens, as you saw in the initial slide, that handle large elements of dust and separate those. But this is for micro and nano meter particles, I should say, in the air. And some things to note on this particular slide in the product that we're launching is that according to the New England Journal of Medicine, and I'm sure you've seen many different reports on this, that the particulates or droplets of the virus can remain into the air for 3 hours and sometimes more. There's still a lot of unknowns in these studies, but they have confirmed that this can be transmitted, via aerosol. And this is a unit that we've developed that has different filtration choices. Anywhere from, we offer them from, well, even below the ones I'm showing here, but MER 14, 15, or 16 are all equal to the ASHI optimization of filters, even for medical areas. And we go up to HEPA, which is, for clean room or even beyond. So your choice, we offer a variety of filter options that will exceed the medical grade options. So that's kind of nice and reassuring to your employees returning to work, is that they have cleaner air or it's getting filtered at levels higher than even operating rooms. You can see in the photograph here one of our larger systems. I'll talk about it a little bit more in detail, and it can be hung from rafters. It can be put on stands. It's fairly mobile. It's a plug and play technology. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about the different models that we have available in the coming slides. One of the things to take note of, and the reason we focused on this, is the size of particulates, in particular dust particles and even virus. You can see on the scale to the right of this chart. And the ones in the red bar are particularly hard when things that are in the 0.3 microns and in that range are particularly hard to filter, and partially because of the way that they don't settle and they sit in the air. Our filtration systems will go after those particles and then some. You can look at the virus conditions. And if you look at the settling time, some of these are almost infinite for very small microparticles, how long they'll sit in the air. You can see 3.5 months. These have been studies conducted on the various densities of different types of particles. Right during this presentation, I'm sure there's a lot of interest in the virus elements, and you can see where they fall in the scale of microns. So they can hover, as I mentioned earlier, in the early studies, 3+ hours in the air, and we want to scrub that air and filter it out from any kind of viral contamination. So that was our intent. And even beyond the viruses, the particulates that we all breathe in our air does affect our health. And unfortunately for all of us as humans, anything under that 0.3 micron is so small that we ingest it and it doesn't expel via cough or with our breath. It actually will go into our bloodstream through our lungs. So small microparticles are not healthy for any of us, and we're looking at ways to clean the environment of those beyond just the virus, but all kinds of particulates in our air. So the AIRSCREEN micro launched this year is an extremely versatile filtering system, and it uses ambient air, so it doesn't really have to vent to the outside. It can, you're not wasting your heated air, you're recirculating it, and it can also, just be plug and play, as I mentioned before. Does work with viruses. It works beyond that, and actually there's been a lot of studies leading to productivity gains in the work environment due to breathing air quality. So this, in some ways, can actually justify itself relative to that. Many other cost savings elements to it, such as lower energy cost, because it filters the air, protects your current HVAC systems from overburdening them, and any kind of dust or particulate that settles in on those actually reduces their effectiveness and efficiency, and actually shortens their life. And so that's another way that it can save you money. These are versatile in that they are a 3-unit system, and on the screen you'll see to the left our horizontal unit that comes in a 2,000 CFM and a 4,000 CFM unit with their dimensions next to it. There are 3 separate cartridges or modules, one being the fan motor, one being a molecular filter, and then one being a particulate filter. You can buy them, naturally you need the fan motor no matter which you buy, but the other 2 are configurable. You can either buy one or both. So if you think of a carbon style filter, the middle module shown in this one would be that. So you could actually take out odors or weld fumes. But for the audience that we're talking to today, I imagine they're most interested in the fan motor and the filter module that you can place in your business to protect. These systems are for larger areas. You can see the dimensions of a 2,000 CFM unit, about 28 inches by about 5 feet long. They do have, like I say, mounting brackets to can be mounted permanently, or we can put them on a roller cart. These ones typically are not in the 110 or 120 volt configuration, but can be stepped up if needed for somebody who wants to use this in a typical office or classroom environment. In fact, based on some of the things that are happening recently, we've understood that a lot of people want to maybe scrub the air between lectures or during a lecture. These do run very quiet. In fact, we had to put light sensors. You might be able to see it on the side of the picture that actually says the fan is running. And it is a self-adjusting fan that as the filter builds up with different particulates, it will actually automatically adjust the pull to keep a constant water pull to it. The product to the right is much more portable, but it's smaller CFM, and that's a rolling unit that does plug into a standard outlet, weighs about 50 pounds. You can see the dimensions. Comes standard with HEPA filter. This would be something that oftentimes you might see in a medical area, but I heard earlier in the presentation about high risk areas or concentrations. This is a roller unit, and it can be very easily moved around the business. So how do you choose which one you would use? There is actually some sizing, and we have formulas and basically a calculator to help people to understand what they need and how many turns of air that they would want to produce through their particular area. One of the things to note is if you look at air changes per hour on the left chart, the performance of the reduction of dust particulates or particulates in the air does kind of level off, and there's kind of a diminishing returns as you continue to scrub the air multiple times through the course of an hour. So naturally, there's a little chart over to the right that gives some people guidance. I think the majority of folks on this webinar are probably not heavy dust applications, but they may be. We actually put these units into corrugated manufacturing facilities where there's heavy concentrations of dust as well. So we would want to turn the air more frequently because of that. I would say most people on this webinar, based on the audience I heard, would want somewhere around 6 turns an hour. You can see to the right is a quick calculation of of the various units, how many you might need in a classroom environment, something that's 45 feet by 60 feet, but with a 10-foot ceiling is just the example given. So you might use 1 unit of the 2000 CFM or 4 units, 1 in each corner of the 500 CFM. You don't even need a full 4000 CFM unit. So that's a little bit about the choices and how many you would want. And we'll work with whoever's interested in learning more about this to size the proper amount to get the air changes they want. You know, a little bit more on the portable unit of the 500 CFM. You can see in the photograph here, this unit itself can actually be used in a hospital grade isolation. But in some people will want to vent these externally to create a negative pressure. If in fact you had somebody who had a disease or COVID and you wanted to keep the room at a negative pressure so that there was no escaping. So it's basically creating an isolation room. You could do that with all the units, actually by venting them outwardly and create that negative pressure to not escape. This could be done for if you needed a clean room environment or something, a very high risk area, or somebody who has been maybe a quarantined section of the business. A little additional brochure. The main thing to show here is how you can actually turn it into an isolation room by venting it externally. And then finally, just the different models that we offer and the configurations of those models, whether you want a molecular filter with that fan or the particulate filter. There's a price list here as well. A little bit of our contact information. You can look at these online at our website at obpairsystems.com, or if you have inquiries, our email sales@obpairsystems.com.